Alright guys, the taps debug is finished finally. And why I needed to do that was because I want to put something in, like, just in case some of you guys want to move the tabs by hand with 2 buttons on your joystick, or Q and E, for example. So I finished that, and now I put back in the bindings in the joystick to move the tabs, and they are in the profile. They're here: tab right, tab previous. If you double click in that, you can go in there. You notice that I enable when I press button on joystick button 5. So how you bind that within VoiceAttack is you check that. Of course, you have to plug in your joystick and then make sure joystick is enabled. And then you also make sure this part is enabled, gamepad, joystick, whatever. Check that and then press that button to remap. So you press that button and then you click that button you'd like to use for, next tab, like tab right, and it will record it in that. So for example, mine is button 5, and then you click OK and it will be highlighted. And then on the top, I would check this, and then I'll edit, the button that you're going to use. So mine's Joy 5, and if you're going to use E, I don't use E, by the way, but if you're going to use E, put the E in there and then uncheck that so it's grayed out, so you can read it, but if you say it, it won't activate. That's basically why you check it to edit and then you uncheck it like that, as a reminder, for your future self, or if you're gonna rebind the button, you got new joystick or whatever, and they have different numbers. It's exactly the same for tab previous. And then I also have another custom scoop for SRV. I don't press button for the ship scoop because I rarely scoop stuff in space. And if I needed to, I can just say deploy cargo scoop, whatever. But for the SRV, I scoop a lot, right? Because you mine stuff and the rocks will fall everywhere on the floor, and there are other materials that you can scoop up, and you need those materials to synthesize to, for exploration. Like I go really far, so that's the only place where I can get stuff to make more heat sinks or whatever. So I have a custom button on the joystick, Joy 8, to activate the SRV scoop only. You don't need to script it this way, but I did. So I checked that when I press the cargo scoop bind, that it's that I'm actually in an SRV only. And every time I press the button, it will tell the program that I'm toggling the SRV cargo scoop. So same way you map the joystick button, exact same way. But again, if you don't use physical buttons for any type of voice tracked actions, then you don't need to set them here. And also, if you use something that I don't use and you want to add it, feel free, right? Like for example, maybe you want to have another button that I don't know what else to track. Oh, maybe you want to have a physical button that. Oh, actually, you don't need to do that. I was about to say, if you want to have another physical button that tracks your deploying hardpoints, then you can put in here, but you no longer need to, because I put in the ADTI hardpoint plugin that tracks your hardpoint. So when you deploy or whatever, with buttons, with keyboard, with voice, you know, it will set the correct variable so you don't need that. But at this moment, I can't think of any other reasons why you would set a physical button to activate some voice activated and tracked actions. But if you thought of this would be a good place to start. So that's that. And now that you know I have 2 buttons to mess with the tabs, right? So for example, this button, tap next. So what I do with this is every time you press that button, and depending which panel it's open, so this is what it's saying, begin integer compare left panel status equals 1. So this basically says if the left panel tab is open, increment the tab number by 1 every time you press that physical button. And then I also have tab checking script in the back that checks the number of times you press it. So for example, on the left panel there are only 4 tabs, right? Navigation, transactions, contacts, and target if you have ship targets. So there are 4 tabs. If you press that button 5 times, for example, it'll reset back to 1, right? You press that previous tab 5 times, it will reset back to 4 if you have a ship targeted. So that's what I've been doing yesterday, and all those conditions. So that is done. So now I can test it for you in game so you can see how it works. I'll turn off the monitor. There we go. So now we're in game and we can test that thing. Transactions. Left tab number
2.
So I put in the debug for 3 tabs because the comms panel don't need debug because it's the same for like wherever you are, in a fighter, in a ship, in an SRV. The comms panel looks exactly the same. The left panel, the right panel, and the roles panel are the ones that I need debugging because I need to tell myself what number the program is currently reading. So that's what I'm doing when I say blah 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 tab number. Left tab number. Left tab number
2.
2, right? It's correct. It's 2. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Now it's on 2. Contacts. Left tab number
3.
Now I'm going to press the button and not say anything and see what happens. Left tab number
1.
Left tab number
2.
Left tab number. Left tab number. Left tab number
3.
Left tab number
2.
So as you can see, I press it like crazy, like going back and forth, past the right, past the left, to test everything, right? Exit. Modules. Right tab number
2.
Ship. Vehicle. Right tab number
4.
Music. Right tab number
7.
I'm going to press a button. Right tab number
5.
Right tab number
6.
Right tab number
2.
Right tab number
1.
Right tab number
4.
Exit. It's cool, right? That took a long time. That took like 8 hours. It's easy if you're only in a ship. I will show you when you get into the fighter. It's crazy, right? Because you get things deactivated. Helm Helm.
Helm.
Rows tab number.
2.
Rows tab number.
4.
Rows tab number.
6.
Exit. Switch.
Fighters. Neural link to fighter engaged.
I already had a fighter flying outside, that's why. So when you're in a fighter, you know, things get deactivated. For example, navigation. Navigation.
Cannot access in fighter craft.
Because it's grayed out. Contacts.
Contacts.
So when I say, you know, navigation, it's grayed out. So that's why it won't let you, right? But you see the tricky part, right? Because before, navigation was 1. So it's, you know, it's insane. When you want to track this stuff, like where you are, and then you track the tab numbers, and then you want to mess with the tab numbers with the physical buttons. So I need to check where you are, what number are you at, what number are you at when you switch, what number are you at when you switch back, stuff like that. Left tab number.
3.
Right, and for this one it's special because the left tab only has 2 activated tabs, and even if you target there are only 3, and there are no grayed out tabs in the middle of the sequence, so I can just leave these as 2 and 3 instead of 1 and 2. But you'll see what I mean when I get to the other panels. So this is still 2 and 3, so contacts is still 3, right? And if you have things targeted, the next one will be 4. So transactions. Transactions.
Transactions.
Left tab number.
2.
Left tab number.
2.
Left tab number.
3.
Modules.
Modules.
Right tab number.
2.
So for the right panel, it's still fine, right? Because the first 4 is fine. It's the 5th one that's great. So for this one, there's a giant problem. Like I can't leave the status and the music as 6 and 7, because then you will count 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, but your increments by 1. So there's a chance that when I went to 4 and I press a button once, it go to status, but the number, it's 5 because you 4 plus 1 hit in the back. So this one and the roles panel, I need to completely overhaul, like just change how it reacts, you know, depending where you are, especially in a fighter. And that was the hard part. So in here, this panel, even though it looks the same as the one in the ship, it's actually a different number system. The ship has like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, so 7 tabs. This one I treat it as if it had 6 tabs, basically, and then redo it, the whole thing, as if it's new. Vehicle.
Vehicle.
Right tab number.
4.
Status.
Status.
Right tab number.
5.
So instead of 6, it will be 5. Right tab number.
2.
Right tab number.
6.
Right tab number.
4.
Right tab number.
3.
Exit. And the comms panel don't matter because there's always 6 items there. It's not gonna mess up anything. And the roles panel, right? Helm. Helm.
Helm.
So same deal. You know, the grayed out thing is right in the middle, right at 4. So if you count it as 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, that won't work, right? So then it's like a brand new thing. So in this one, there are only 5. So rows tab number. Rows tab number.
2.
Rows tab number.
5.
Rows tab number.
4.
Rows tab number.
5.
Fighters.
Fighters.
Exit. Cool, right? So now, you know, it won't screw up. No matter how many times you press that tap button and try to mess it up, it won't. It's great. Oh my god, it took so long, but you won't believe the feeling, like, of finishing that. It's so satisfying. I haven't tested in the SRV yet, but I imagine, you know, it's gonna be good. Because I already finished that for the roles panel, where in the SRV there are only 3, and three of the other ones are grayed out. So I did half of that yesterday, and I forgot about the exit command and the right panel command, and eventually I had to do everything once over just to make sure that they work. So I'm pretty sure it will work in SRV. I haven't tested it, but I'm pretty sure it will work in SRV because it's the same logic everywhere once you get it. And then there's another problem when you switch back to the ship. Make sure, you know, the tab stays. I just tested that and it's fine, so we can test it right now. Switch.
Helm. Link terminated.
I've taken telepresence control, Commander.
Rows tab number
2.
You know how it's 2? Because it ended in Helm, so it didn't go back to all to reset, but it's fine because it knows that it is at 2, and it is indeed at 2. You know, so like nothing be wrong. Right tab number
1.
and that was at 1. Left tab number
3.
that was at 3. Because there's no 1 in a fighter, and you just switch over. And I tell the EDDI that when you're back to the ship, it's going back to 3. So, you know, it's at 3. So it's correct when you switch back to the ship. So, you know, everything will carry over and it won't screw up. But it used to screw up. That's what I was trying to say. Like, it used to be, you know, insane. And if you don't have those debug commands, then you're going to be so confused. Like, you go back and you say something, and then it's at the wrong tab, then what? You're like, oh god. You know? Transactions. Left tab number
2.
Vehicle. See how it exits? It go back to 1. So now left tab is 1. Left tab number
1.
See? So you, right, go back to being normal. Status. Exit. SRV. See, from 2 to 4. Right? But SRV wasn't available in the fighter that we just switched from. Roles tab number
4.
Help. Roles tab number
6.
Exit. Oh yeah, macho man, smooth as butter. Alright man, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.